Awesome. So yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, like I said, I'm really excited to be here. And thank you for inviting me on this toggle meeting. I'm honored to really be here and asked to join in. Vishal, Amin, Kruti, I know she's not here, and Rishabh, and everyone of you here. I'm like really impressed by what you guys have been building. So just wanted to say huge props for building this community and supporting everyone here. Again, I'll introduce myself. Like my name is Aradhana Modi. It is quite a bit of a mouthful. It's a long name. I'll just address the elephant in the room. No, I'm not related to Narendra Modi in any way. I get asked that all the time, especially in the US, because they don't realize that it's such a common, well, now it's not my last name, but middle name now. But yeah, it's always hilarious to be like, no, I'm not related in any way to him. And yeah, um, with that, yeah, I grew up in Kolkata in India until I was 18 and finished high school. I moved to the US to study animation at SCAD for my undergrad. And like Vishal already mentioned, I currently live in Los Angeles with my husband, Camilo. I have a 4-year-old son and a dog. You can see the picture right there. Um, yeah, and I run an animation and interactive design studio that I co-founded with Camilo, who was in the previous photograph called The Little Lab. My primary role, apart from being a business owner, is the creative director at the studio, which means that I love seeing the big picture of any project. I love working and building teams. I love just bringing really talented artists together and executing on projects and just having fun. And for the past 13 years, I've directed and or worked on a variety of projects from advertising campaigns, short form animated videos, even mobile games and AR experiences. And today's topic of discussion was called Empowering Creativity to Rebellion. I thought I'd share my journey on this path of being a rebel and learning along the way. I'll share some vulnerable parts of me, and I hope there's a safe space to discuss and share all of that. The term artist kind of goes hand in hand with the term rebel. I've often been called a rebel throughout my life. And I'm sure all of you have too. And usually when it is that way, it's not generally in a positive light. It's always kind of like in this like negative annotation of it, especially because rebellion usually starts during those tumultuous teenage years, and it's, your hormones are going crazy and all of that. And like any teenager, I also had my ways of showcasing rebellion. I feel like you would understand some of the cultural context of this Indian teenage girl. So growing up, like my grandma would constantly keep telling me I needed to like grow out my hair to be long. So on my wedding day, I could have my hair up in a bun. And I did what only made sense. I kind of chopped off my hair and, looked like this really awkward teenager for years. Clearly, my grandma had not heard of hair extension at that time. And, these aren't the greatest quality photos, but that was just like really, silly, rebellious stuff that you do as a teenager. Mm-hmm. I get my like creative side from my mom. She's always been the source of creativity for me. She's an amazing painter, very crafty with things like cooking and like plants and like, on the right, this is kind of like a dessert she made out of like icing and things like that. And it looks like a terrarium, and you can see like I definitely draw a lot of inspiration from her work. She was the one who just really encouraged me to take art classes and set me up with this amazing artist in Kolkata, Ajay Banerjee. And he was incredibly talented, and I learned a lot from him. He trained me to paint these like beautiful traditional Indian paintings, and this style was sort of his passion. But year after year, I would be just doing the same kind of content, same topics, the style just over and over again. I got really good at it, but I really wanted to try something new and different. And I kept asking and requesting to find other topics, maybe still lives, maybe like honing in my drawing skills. And those requests would just go on deaf ears. And I would try to work on the side on my own, like, just like holding up my hand and like constantly sketching and trying to improve myself in different mediums. Primarily, these were all like watercolor, and I wanted to try just charcoal and pastels and all that stuff. And that's what you see some of it here, but I refused to attend any more classes with him eventually because I was just really tired of doing the same stuff. I told my mom, like, I'm not going to do this anymore unless I can get some further instruction in something else. And she finally agreed I could do both. And so this is the kind of sample you're seeing here, just is me exploring different styles, like trying to find my artistic expression. By this time, I kind of knew I wanted to pursue a path in animation, and I knew I needed to really understand human anatomy, and I would constantly sketch and try to figure that out. And so that was kind of really my first act of rebellion on my path of creativity. When I decided to be an animator and study animation and shared with people around me, I was often met with disbelief and a lot of laughter. This was back in 2007, 2005, something like that. I was always being met with some form of a no, that you can't do this. I remember my grandfather telling me that women should not be educated more than men. He was a brilliant man, like super brilliant, but when it came to women's place in society, our views just did not align. The biggest expectation of me was to just find something easy to graduate college with, get married, have babies, settle down. You guys understand and know this. The laughter was often met with questions like, once you get married, like your husband won't even let you work, so why bother? Or what are you going to even do with animation? Make cartoons? Like, your father will never let you study outside. And while it created a lot of self-doubt and a lifetime of struggles with confidence specifically, it also fired me up to kind of follow my dreams and prove that I could do this. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of information like there is nowadays on YouTube and all these kind of classes and School of Motion and all of that to be able to learn animation. So through a dear friend, I learned about SCAD and I set my heart on it. I earned a scholarship, and my father did eventually support me, convince my grandfather, and let me go to college and study abroad. Now that I'm a parent, I completely recognize how deeply hard it was for my parents to accept and let me go. But they eventually did and came around, and I'm so grateful for all of their sacrifices and support they've offered me throughout the years. And I also recognize the privilege of this opportunity that they offered me to do this. And then this youthful rebellion kind of changed for me over time. It kind of took on a different nature. It was no longer about just kind of trying to prove something. It ended up becoming more of a way to challenge myself and be true to myself. And then after graduating college, I got my foot in the animation industry, working at some startup gaming and interactive app companies, which eventually landed me a job working at Disney on mobile gaming and interactive experiences. It was a magical and truly incredible moment, an experience learning from all these talented people who surrounded me. It was absolutely a dream come true. And up until that point, I just truly believed if I make it to Disney, I would never leave. That would be it. I would just be holding on to those mouse ears forever. But after a few years of working at Disney, I found myself wondering, what next? Like, what's my next step? As any large organization, sometimes you don't get to work on the things that you actually care about or feel are meaningful or challenging you. And so Camilo and I both worked at Disney at the time, and we were both feeling that way. Even he had the same feelings. We would go back home and start collaborating on side projects. We rented this like small studio space in Burbank, California, and just started hosting art shows and workshops under the name The Little Labs. We would just invite all our friends to contribute. We'll have themes for art shows or invite artists, and just put this thing together. And very soon we couldn't wait for our day job to end so we could do this or start working on like little passion projects on the side, whether it was like 36 days of type or, just like a whimsical revamp of classical paintings. Like he would do design, I would animate, or sometimes he would reverse the roles. And we knew that something had to change, that this is not sustainable, doing like our full day job and then coming back and running these shows and like working on stuff like after hours. And we knew we needed to quit our jobs and start something of our own. We started out freelancing around town in different studios, primarily at Buck and Oddfellows, and that we'd start getting clients directly to us. And that just eventually grew into the studio called The Little Labs. And when we decided to make this big decision, most people looked at us like very puzzled, like, what are you doing? They didn't know how to advise us because leaving a cushy job at Disney was just, one of the most prestigious studios in the world. And it seemed a little insane. However, it was like our method of finding our path on this creative journey, kind of just leading up to now. So as we grow older, our fears tend to increase. We all like being safe and reducing risk. And I often find myself reminding myself of that rebellious teenager who chopped off her hair, then was ready to take on the world, to constantly remind myself to tap into that energy. And I recently came across this book called The Art of Creative Rebellion by John S. Crouch, which resonated with me tremendously in my life and everything leading up to this point. I'd encourage all of you to read this book. It's really an excellent read. In the book, he goes into detail about creative rebellion and how to awaken from societal and corporate expectation and really become your true self. It talks about things that I wish I had insight of when I started my career, but it's a good read no matter what path or what stage of your career you're in. These days, I sort of harness this rebellious nature in many aspects of my professional life, such as pushing creativity further, pushing a creative brief further and trying something new on a project. Early on, I would take on a creative brief from a client and deliver exactly what they asked for. Especially because when we're kind of in this like project to project business model at the studio, you kind of need to, you have this mindset of you need to please this client because in the hopes that, they're happy and they'll keep coming back to you. And then while this worked for me for a lot of clients, and they seem pretty satisfied with what we were delivering, I didn't feel happy about the outcome of the projects that I was working on. And the clients, they seemed all right. Like they were happy, but they weren't like excited and over the moon at the end of the project. And I realized that it's because I was playing it safe. I had like grown, and yeah, I was just trying to be safe about it. And I figured like I'd share an example of a project that we worked on last year at the Little Labs called, for a new product called Believer Meats. It's a product that is created completely lab grown. No animals were harmed. That's what they claim. It's basically lab grown meat. And I figured I'd share a process of how we came to the design for this. So I'm gonna switch to Figma. That's the tool we use right now at the studio to kind of collaborate and work on together. It's kind of like our digital whiteboard. And sorry, I had to switch windows so I can share, so I don't see you guys, but
yeah, that's totally fine. I mean, it provides a little peek into your workflow. So it's
Yeah.
going to help us a lot, like including me.
Yeah.
I'm sort of like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like I was saying, so Figma is kind of like our digital whiteboard. Our team is now all remote. We're not always all in the physical space. And it kind of helps us collaborate together, throw ideas and work together. It looks generally a lot more messy than this, but I cleaned it up. So I know we have only so much time to talk through it. I kind of pulled together the important pieces of the project to kind of share. So yeah, with this project we kind of tied up with an agency called Red Antler, which is primarily based in New York. They invited us to collaborate on this project. They're an incredible team. They actually provided us some rough storyboards, which we never usually have, which was great to have. They're super talented. And so what you're seeing here, the storyboard reference was kind of what they provided roughs from their team, which was super helpful to have, like I said. And we kind of pulled those in, and they also shared some illustration style references of what they wanted. And so this is what I would call the creative brief from the client. Usually, like I said, it's a lot more bare bones, but this project specifically, they had actually done a lot of work up front, which was amazing. They also shared the color palette for the brand because it's a physical product. They had packaging, branding, and color palettes and things. So we were able to get our hands on that, which was great. So yeah, and then these are internal references our team put together. And I want to note, like, I don't design anymore. I'm primarily direct, so my job is really to inspire my team and kind of guide them through the process. So a lot of times they kind of help gather references together, and I'll contribute as well. Really, my approach is always really collaborating, like uplifting my team more than putting them on the center stage. And I'm really there to help them along the way. So yeah, we started gathering references because a lot of the story was about, and you can kind of go to our website and pull up the case study and watch the whole video. It was 5 minutes long, so I didn't want to pull that here. But the idea is you kind of zoom into this piece of meat and see how it kind of goes through the process. So a lot of it is like cells, like separating and then making its way all the way through to a chicken or hen at the end. So we really had to figure out how to kind of show these scientific processes in an interesting way to keep it entertaining. And so we really looked at like microscopic cell references, really looking at chemistry, like molecules. How can we bring some texture into the project? So really pulling those references before we dive into actually designing. And then we wanted to focus on look development at the beginning. I told my producer, I really want to push the work here. Let's have 2 different illustrators and designers be helping. This was again, like, I knew it was going to be a little bit challenging with the budget, but we're like, no, we need like a week of exploration to really get it right. And so
yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. And so this first top direction one that you're seeing was very vector, simple, like geometric shapes. And, we kind of picked just like 6 style frames from the entire piece and they're related to the script. And you can see it's very geometric shapes and simple, very vector, clean lines. And then this other designer, Remy, that we had on the project, my goal was to tell him, let's go a little bit crazy. Let's use brushes. Let's not worry about any of like the limitations we had on the project, which was we had to use a combination of After Effects and some cell animation. But let's not put those limitations on ourselves. And you can kind of see how the process of arriving at these designs came about. We started looking kind of like this, which is very similar to what the client provided. And we're like, let's push this even more. You know, you can see kind of where that came from, in terms of like it takes up the entire screen. But like, oh, let's put more brushwork. And at this point, the artist is like, "Are you sure you want me to like use brushwork? Because that's not the reference the client provided." I was like, "No, let's do it. Let's see where this creative process takes us." And
Yeah.
so you can start to see how yeah how you can it's like the style kind of starts to evolve. Like we even like went to like let's do painterly backgrounds, and see where that lends us. And you know, through this process, like just ideas come about that could just kind of helps flow that creativity, without adding any barriers at first, just letting the juices flow.
Mhm.
And something really exciting started to happen. We started using half tones in these shapes. There is some fun design language coming about. And at this point, we were like, okay, we've done quite a bit of exploration. Let's start to make sure, you know, the idea was like the meat was comprised of animal cells but injected with plant protein. So let's make the plant cell look different from the animal cell visually. And so now you can see, you know, we started using like more sharper shapes for the plants and more organic shapes for the animal cells. And then started to think more about what the background around it would look like, because there's a million of these cell separations happening, and how do we represent that? Then we started to play more with it. We still see a little bit of that brushstroke, but what if we add some half tones in the shadows, um, or start filling in and using fills for the inside of the cells? And we were like, all right, that may be too heavy, but what if we add a little shadow to the cells inside of it? And now we're like, okay, what if we put half tones inside of the cell, and start to bring in more of that brushwork, as you can see on the outlines. And this is a little bit far off from the beef, but not too far. But there's something exciting that was happening here, that we could borrow from. And then when we were exploring this direction three, this was sort of the very first explorations. And so kind of guided the designer to be like, okay, like there was something exciting happening in direction two and one. Like, why don't we borrow from it? Here's a very rough idea. Let's run with it. And so she came up with something like this, filled up. Again, you can see how different it is from those initial like references. But something cool was happening because we were borrowing from all these different design ideas that you saw before.
Mhm.
So using some of the half tones, like the um, cell shapes here, and adding some gradients with the half tones, you can see how there's like kind of like a journey that the design is kind of taking. Um, and we're landing on something really exciting because it's looking scientific, but also interesting at the same time. We're really like leaning into the half tones because we liked it so much here, the look of it. We're like, let's borrow that and push that even further. And this is where we eventually landed for that first iteration, to the client. And if I zoom into this, you can see how it's direction one, two, three kind of really evolved us to come up to this point. Because we're borrowing some of the vector and like clean lines of direction one, but the looseness of direction two, and really coming up with this mashup in the end of direction three. When we presented it to the client, they loved direction three, which we were really stoked about. And they had some feedback, which we incorporated. And, you know, the differences are pretty subtle. You can see right here, we're just like adding a little bit more color.
Mhm.
Eventually, this is where we landed on with the designs. Again, the differences are very minor towards
Yeah.
the end.
I,
Um,
I, sorry. I just wanted to say, like, there is a
mhm,
lot of brainstorming that happened when you're. I
mhm,
mean, I can literally see your thought process go, and the whole design process. So I wanted to ask, like, do you how long, how often, and how long do you keep this brainstorming sessions? Like, do you have brainstorming sessions
mhm,
to finally arrive at a design choice? Like I remember seeing this on Instagram, and I think you had shared the zoom in version of it, the one
Mhm.
that you shared, and it was. I always wondered, like, how did you arrive at that design that you
Mhm.
have?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I wanted to ask, like, how often do you have these
Mhm.
brainstorming sessions among your designers?
Almost always on a project. Like sometimes, I mean, on this project, we had a week, which was amazing. But if it's not a week, at least a day or two, we always set aside to kind of, figure out this loop development. It just helps through the process. A week is amazing to have. So we always aim for that. And we always tell our clients as well, like it's important to get it right. And like, can I establish the style? It's not sometimes the timelines don't allow it. So like I said, yeah, 1 or 2 days at the very least. We're like, let's just let those creative juices flow and get ideas out. Otherwise, you just get locked in. Like you have the brief and you do the first thing that comes to your mind, and the first idea is not always the greatest. Sometimes it is. Like surprisingly, yeah. Sometimes you just go full circle back to that first idea. But a lot of times, it's just the most normal or the first thought that comes to mind, or it's done before, and how do we push it forward? Yeah, it
Awesome. I
yeah, it
think
kind of
sorry.
go
Yeah.
ahead. Well, I was
No,
just saying it kind of allows you to play with color, play with the aesthetic, and really try to push yourself and challenge yourself. Yeah. Mhm.
yeah,
What
because
was we talking? Yeah.
this one stuck out. This one stuck out on Instagram, the design choice and the
Oh,
whole.
yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think I'm going to quote you on that as well, because the first idea may not always be the best one. Uh,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to like attach yourself because sometimes you feel so emotionally attached to that first thought or idea you have, and you ask for critique, and your like body is kind of repelling. I have that too. Like you're like, no, I love it. Like this is good, or you're feeling lazy sometimes. I certainly do because I'm like, I just want to get it done. But really like pushing yourself to like go further that extra mile. Yeah.
yeah, man, it definitely
Mhm.
shows. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, continue. I'm sorry I interrupted. Please
Oh no,
continue.
no, this is great. No, I won this. This was perfectly awesome, and feel free to. Um, I should have said that before. If you have questions, I know we'll have time for questions at the end as well. But yeah, happy to. Um, that was really it. We really love working and using Figma as a kind of collaborative tool. And again, like I said, it's actually really a lot messier than this. This looks super clean, but messy is good. We embrace it here. Yeah, uh, awesome. All right, I'll go back to my deck really quick. Um, yeah, the other part of this in the there's a question here.
Oh, okay. Prashant has a question. Let me just pull that up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Prashant has a question. Prashant, if you want to come forward and ask, feel free to, or I can just ask it here itself. Yeah, okay, I'll ask. I wonder. He wonders how tough it is for you when you like the animation you did, and the client asks for some illogical change, and you have to implement them without questioning them.
That is a tough question. um, well, sometimes yeah, we kind of just my I guess my motto is like let's do it and show it to them, and more often than not, it's really just they want to see it to believe it, kind of. So more often than not, they kind of agree to us. They, if you start to push back and be like, no, I don't think this is good, it kind of just makes that conversation harder. So I'll go back. Yeah, we'll swallow that pill, which is hard to swallow, do what they ask for, and then just do a side by side comparison. And yeah, 90% of the time they go back to what we propose because they see that it isn't working. So that helps. It's really believing that what you've done works, showing them, and kind of moving forward from it. And yeah, sometimes it's like you really do have to swallow that hard pill. Yeah. Rishabh, you have a question? Yeah.
Yes. Like just have like two questions. Like one is follow up towards what Prashant just asked you. So
Mm-hmm.
right now, what you showed us on the Figma is that the design choices and the brainstorming that you guys did while in the project, while the
Mm-hmm.
client had given you one brief, like the initial illustrations, right? So how do you
Mm-hmm.
convince the client that the design choice that you have finalized is the good one
Mm-hmm.
for them to have it?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Like, how do we convince them? I I don't think we try to convince them in any way, because when you try to convince them, like they will, like if I try to sell it too much, they will tend to like. And if anyone's trying to sell anything to you, you go like whoa whoa whoa, right? Like you stay back and you're like, I don't want this. So we really just kind of let it sit with them. We present all the ideas and like let them take it in and kind of react to it. And more, yeah, again, more often than not, they'll just pick the style that, um, you know, we love. Again, we're not representing anything we don't love to begin with, right? Like we have to be proud of the work. So no matter what they pick is like the right path. Like you never want to present an idea that's not great, or
Right.
you don't want you don't want them to pick to begin with. So yeah, so the odds of like, yeah, we kind of presented in this project three directions. We would have been happy with either direction, right? But
Mhm.
we had our favorite, but we never revealed it to the client unless they ask us, because every time we do, they'll go with the one that we didn't say. It's just like a human psychology. I don't know what it is. So yeah, yeah.
So, like, just a follow-up question on this itself. So,
Hmm.
let's say if they are changing the design thing itself, right? That's when they also
Hmm.
change the animation, right? So,
Hmm.
I'm talking in the sense that let's say you have one design and specific design animation language, right?
Hmm.
But they want you to change both of them in between the project. Like, that's when
Hmm.
either like I'm might not be able to phrase it perfectly, but let's
Okay.
say if you have one design style, one animation style, and second design style and second animation style, they want to just mix the four of these things together.
Hmm.
But then you have to convince them, okay, no, you should go with the first iteration or the second design thing, right? That's when how do you
Hmm.
manage that thing?
Yeah.
Just to clarify, they like you simplified everything, design and animation, but now the client
Right,
wants
right.
to mix it around everything. They just want to have a mix of everything.
Yeah. That happens all the time. They're like, "Oh, can we do both of these together?" So, there's a project we had, was like writer story, where we had a lot of character designs on it, and so we went through like 100 character designs probably on their project. And every time we present, we would be like, "We like a little bit of this, but a little bit of that. Can you like mesh that together?" And we're like, "Sure, we'll try it." And that's that's easy in the design phase, right? Easier. But once you approve designs and you go into animation, that's when you come into like scope creep. And then you start having the conversations about, all right, well, if you want a different animation style, like say, I'm just going to hypothetically say one is like more cell based and After Effects based. Well, we can do that. We're just not going to be able to um, meet your deadline. We may need more time or more budget. And let's also ask the question of, is it really going to benefit the project overall at the end and what you're trying to achieve? So we just start having those conversations with the client. I mean, at the end, they're paying for it and they need to be happy with what they're doing. So, they need to be happy with what they're getting. So we just have to have honest conversations on why. And if it's going to help the project, then why not? Like, let's have an open mind about it. So, yeah, I hope that helps answer your question.
That definitely helped. Thanks so much.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Cool. I think there's one more question from Prashant. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So Prashant has another question. Are storyboarding and pre-visualization same, or are they considered different? As some clients ask for pre-visualization before they go before we go all in with the animations. What are your thoughts on that, Aradhana?
Yeah. When you're saying pre-visualization, are you meaning like animatic? Or is that, I'm guessing that's what you mean, because this may be like a terminology difference. So storyboarding will be usually like we take the script and kind of just rough out the motion, or like rough out like the key story points. And for if you meant animatic for previs, that would just really be taking the storyboard and timing it to audio, like rough audio clip. And I'm guessing maybe you meant like this design exploration phase. I I would say they're different, because storyboard, like you can be really loose and rough with it. Like as you saw, like I can switch back to a little big long really quick. So these were rough storyboards, right? And they're nothing like what the final end product was. It just kind of tells you the kind of key action points of like what the concept or idea of what would happen. But if you look at the final design here, this is more like design look exploration, where you're really taking those like concepts and finalizing what the look and feel of the designs would be before you go into animation. So hopefully that answers the question. You meant design exploration. Yeah. I would say they're different, because you really want to like get through like a rough storyboard before you start getting to this point. You really want to be loose and get the ideas down, and then move into like, because you need that to kind of start the design work and get into the details. You want to kind of storyboard out the whole overarching idea of your animation piece or motion piece before you get into that point. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. One pre-visualization that I've always thought of as something that movie makers do to get an idea of the pacing of the story.
Yeah. So that's what I was kind of thinking of, like the 3D animation previs, like that's what came to my mind. Yes, I was a little confused. Yeah. But yeah, definitely. It's kind of important.
I feel like a lot of terms are interchangeably used by clients.
I know, it's just different things. Style frames, storyboards, like every time these terms just get jumbled up and swapped. So yeah, it was like to make sure, because sometimes clients don't know what style frames are. They're like, what is that? Like, and you have to kind of walk them through the process, especially if they haven't worked with motion before, and they're really like a startup, or they just don't have a knowledge of these terminologies. So we have to walk them through what it means. And for every studio, it means different things. Like some people will call it keyframes as well, right? And so it's just different ways of saying the same thing.
I think a lot of communication is required to reduce that gap.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. A lot of times it's educating the client, on these terms or the process of animation. I'm sure you all have to do that quite often as well. So
and you may continue then.
Yeah, awesome, perfect. Yeah, we can have more questions anytime. Let me stop back here. So moving on from that, that's one way of kind of like channeling your rebellious nature into your professional life. The journey of a creative is often very tumultuous. The highs are super high. You're like feeling amazing, or you feel like the lows are just super low. You just don't feel great about what you're doing, or it's either like a lot of work or like really less amount of work. Especially when you're freelancing or running a business, you don't have like that paycheck coming in every month consistently. And in this industry, it can be really challenging during those low lows. And during those times, I kind of channel my rebel towards a can-do attitude to keep going personally and also to motivate my team, focusing on what I can do at the moment, whether it's an internal passion project for the studio. Here you can see kind of just a montage of internal projects we've done over the years. Whenever we have some downtime, we squeeze in a moment to explore something different. And I think playback might be a little bit choppy. We're just constantly trying to find ways to pivot to continue along this journey in order to stay relevant in this ever-changing industry. It kind of helps you to push your style, try something new. It gives you an opportunity to grow as a creative and push your skills, really. Yeah. I'm not sure how many of you all here are parents, but becoming a parent was that maybe not. I see Wasi join. Hey, Wasi. She probably relates to this. But becoming a parent was like life-changing, not only personally, but professionally, very drastic for me, especially as a mother. I was used to working really long hours all the time. And I felt at this point in life where I was questioning if I needed to choose motherhood or career. I refused to accept that I had to conform to the norms, that I needed to give up my career, which I'd worked so hard to get to this point. Instead, I figured out a flexible schedule for myself. Initially, I feel really guilty of not working this traditional 9 to 5, like the rest of my colleagues or my teammates were putting in that time. Especially as the boss, I felt like I needed to set an example for the team and be there all the time. I've now learned that I need to embrace this new normal for myself. I'm okay to rebel and take the breaks in between work. If it's to pick up my son from school, take him to a doctor appointment, because I make up those hours after hours. Once he goes to bed, I kind of just break my day up. And as long as I'm delivering, it's all good. And in fact, I also encourage my team members to do the same. As long as everyone's getting their work done, making the meetings, meeting our deadlines, allowing flexibility is just going to lead to a happier work environment for everyone. Yeah. Also, like question. Yeah. Go ahead, Nisha. Yeah.
Yeah, that actually brings me to something that I've noticed, because we worked together back in 2021. I think. I mean, that was an entirely different experience for me, because normally when I work with a studio, there would be I would be getting the work, I'd be getting the project done, and I'll be expected to finish off a project in a certain amount of time, and then I'll be giving it for revision. But when we work together, there's something that I admired, is that we sat for meetings with, you sat with us, all the animators for meetings, and you would provide us instructions or suggestions on how to do it. And most of the time I would be watching, not just mine, but when you provided, the feedback, there was a lot of meticulous detail that you were going through. And I feel like a lot of working in Disney and that may have rubbed off on you. And, I think that's some sort of a habit that you developed, because the video eventually comes out like really awesome. And that is something that I've always admired when we work together. So I just want to say, there is a lot of that journey sort of shows, you've worked in Disney, and that because I've heard a lot of Disney animators being very extremely detailed about the way they animate. And I've been following Aaron Blaze on YouTube, and the way, so his stories are when they design a character, they take months, and they're very detailed about it. And that's sort of like what I felt. And when I heard that, the first thing that came to my mind was, that's how Little Labs was working. There was a lot of we didn't take you didn't take months, but there was a lot of meticulous detail work going on in there. And we just saw your Figma file, and that's I just got to see what your thought process is. So that is
Mhm.
something that, like, that's sort of mind blowing for me.
Well, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I think Disney, being at Disney, and also SCAD, I would say, like, just critiquing and improving, and really like coming down to the details, and you just keep working at it in iterations. At Disney, we're dealing like on version 60 of an animation, and all the characters doing is maybe waving and saying hi. The bar is just so high. We're kind of presenting to the directors, because I worked at the interactive department. So we'd oftentimes be in meetings with directors for the movies that we were working on games with, and presenting it. And they just know so much about these characters or animations, like in general. So we just used to like getting tons of notes, and it's like down to like, it'd be like 5% more blue, or 2%. Like, it's just really detailed. So I try to not be that, you know, specific, because I can really, like, like you're saying, it would take months to just deliver on anything, and we don't often have the liberty to do that on a project. But that definitely was a great training for me to that point, and I'm glad you noticed that, and
Yeah, I
it
mean,
wasn't obnoxious. Like, yeah, because yeah. I always tell my just don't hate me, but can you do this? Like, um,
no, for me,
yeah.
it was more like, okay, I have to step up my game. I need to, level up so desperately when I saw that. And, that was one time I was like, okay, I need to, like, this is not what I have to be. I have to bring my A game. And so after we worked together, I started, going back to my projects, like critiquing it myself, like, no, I can do
Yeah.
this better than, yeah.
I'm glad I inspired that for you to do that. So thank you for sharing, and that with me. Awesome. Yeah. So moving on, I also like, more than just like questioning other people. I'm often like questioning myself, and kind of relating to what you're saying, Vishal. Not in a way of self-doubt, but taking a moment to ask if my approach or a certain project or strategy is going to be beneficial for myself, my team, or a client. Recognizing that we have to continue to pivot and change if something isn't working as we had hoped. Accepting critique, and yeah, very much relating to what you're saying, Michelle, and getting feedback to embrace change. Sometimes we're just not comfortable to get that feedback, and now more often than not, I seek that feedback. Oftentimes, like, my team's like, I'm like, give me feedback. Like, I want that feedback, because I'm always the one giving feedback, but I kind of urge people to share feedback with me on things, especially like at the end of a project. We'll do like an internal thing with the client, like kind of like a postmortem, in kind of ways we can improve or get better. We'll have weekly team meetings, like, let's figure out better ways or processes. Like, we're always trying to improve and adjust and pivot, because tools change, a lot changes over time. Like, and this industry is like ever evolving. So how can we move forward and be relevant? Honestly, yeah. These days, like I was saying, I found myself mostly rebelling myself and embracing discomfort. This pushes me to grow and better myself. In his book, The Art of Creative Rebellion, that I shared earlier, John talks about having creative courage to think for ourselves and try something new. He reminds us of this quote from David Bowie: if you feel safe in the area you're working in, you're not working in the right area. Always go a little further into the water than you feel you're capable of being in. Go a little bit out of your depth. And when you don't feel that your feet are quite touching the bottom, you're just in the right place to do something exciting. This idea of challenging my own self has resonated with me throughout my life. I am terrified of public speaking, and this year I decided to challenge myself to put myself out there and say yes to speaking opportunities. Earlier this year, I was invited to be on a panel up on stage at a motion design conference with 6 other incredible women. Well, she's one of them. She's right here. And today, I am here talking to all of you. I am out of my depth, but I know that the more that I do this, I will grow more from every experience. Yeah. So today I'll leave you with this quote from Osho: "Creativity is the greatest rebellion in existence." I hope that your team takes something away from here to apply to your creative endeavors, channel that inner rebel, and find your own path. Embrace your identity and just stay curious and stay yourself. Yeah, that's the end of like my slide deck. But I'm here to answer any questions, talk more about this. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think someone has Mervin has his hands up. So,
Mhm.
and let me just actually, I'll bring it up. Mervin and Vasi also has her hands up. So,
Okay.
Mervin, if you want to come forward. Okay. Yeah, in that case, go ahead, Vasi. I hope I'm not butchering your name. Please come forward.
No, it's correct. Hi everyone. Thank you for the presentation. I couldn't hop on earlier, but I got a part of your wonderful presentation. So I have a question about directing. Could you give us your top number one tip for the creatives here that are directing the team?
Yeah, well, I want to see. Good to see you here. Yeah.
An awesome question.
Yeah. Top tip. I would say really like I think you don't have to have all the answers, is what I would say. I think you really want to like lean on your team because you hired them to come into the project with their talents and kind of letting them shine. You obviously want to have a direction because you don't want people to like, go rogue. You kind of set some boundaries, but really letting them shine and do their part, and let their talent show. So yeah, let's say that's one of my top tips. There's a lot more, but that's probably the biggest one I try to keep myself and remind myself of. Right?
Yeah,
Thank you. That's super helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think okay. Jerry has a question. Jerry, if you want to come forward.
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, come forward.
Hey, Aradhana.
Hey.
I love your works.
Thank you.
I think I've been following you for a while. So I just want to have like a quick question where just want to understand like some of your early influences while you were coming up in this field.
Yeah, I would say like in college, I had an incredible professor, John Weber. He was a previous Disney animator, and so he was extremely influential for me. He kind of helped me understand animation. I really had no idea what it took to be an animator, and he kind of showed me the ropes and helped me understand a lot of the animation principles and like guided me through the process. I'd say at Disney, I had an incredible sort of mentor in the executive producer, Azura. At the time, she helped me really grow into a more like leadership role at Disney. I started off as an animator and eventually made my way up as a senior animator, but titles are weird. At companies like this, I was really just an art director, kind of directing. Eventually, our team sort of was like smaller and we were kind of directing other studios. So I was like kind of bridging the gap and giving feedback to them. That was sort of my role right before I left Disney. And so she helped push me. She was also Southeast Asian. So that was just incredible for me and inspiration for me to see that in a role at Disney, that I can also do that. And she helped me navigate, having people skills and working with people. And then eventually I was at Disney Interactive. I had Bill Rosas who kind of helped, also, I was there for only 6 months, but I really learned a lot just seeing him work and how he kind of directed a team of artists and helped guide me on what the kind of things I need to be thinking of from a high level on a project. So yeah, those are some of my influencers, I would say. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm.
You got a really good influence, but an amazing person then.
Yeah, I definitely feel very lucky to have had those books in my life for sure. Yeah.
Prashant has another question. So,
Okay.
do you always do postmortem of projects you work on? Like, what would you
Mhm.
consider while doing the postmortem of your projects?
Yeah, I think we talk about like what went well, what we could have done better on our project. Like that's usually what we start off the meetings well with. Um, not just like things that went bad, but also what went well. So we continue to do that moving forward. Those are really the two big points and takeaways. It gives like everybody a moment to like decompress. We love doing with clients because oftentimes like we don't know how they fall through the process and it's just like a moment of being vulnerable, and they also share times where they could have done better. So the next time we work together, we try to find better ways to collaborate. Yeah. And what was the second part to the question? No, I think that was it. Yeah.
Yeah. And we have Naveen Kumar. Naveen, yeah, come.
Yeah. Hi, Aradhana. First of all, thank you
Hey.
for such a beautiful session.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
talked about you talked about how you overcome your public speaking fear. Could you shed some more light about like how did you overcome about this particular public speaking thing, and like did you go for some session or something like that?
No. Well, I mean, in college, we had like a public speaking class that we had to take. So I was like always like nervous at there. I think I picked up some kind of tips from that class in college, I would say. And it's really just being thrown into situations and like doing and talking. And like the more I practice and talk, and actually funny, Michelle, you talk about the project we worked on together. I forget, it was like the Flex Solar project. It was one of the first, like projects where I was like, I'm gonna bring everybody on into this meeting, and I was actually really nervous during the time, kind of hosting those meetings. But I was like, I'm gonna do this, and it's just it can go one way or the other, but at least I tried doing it. And so I just feel like you get more and more comfortable the more you talk and do it, and your body just starts to get used to doing it. So it's just really practice. And there are a lot of tools out there for public speaking. I know they have in Disney, they had a program called Mouseketeers. I forget, I'm probably butchering the name, where they also had like public speaking classes and things like that. So I was always very terrified of it, kind of still am, but I'm glad I'm just more comfortable with it over time of my nerves, like kind of calming them down. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't have really huge tips for you, but it's just really like trying it and just like putting
It's
yourself
actually
in the situation. Yeah.
yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, I
Absolutely.
feel mostly these kind of sessions, like what our F9 collective have started doing this weekly ones or monthly ones. We come and meet up with lots of good people here. So yeah,
Yeah.
it makes us, coming forward and talk to really great people in the industry. So yeah, I think this kind of meetup and webinars helps us to connect and overcome this kind of especially speaking with people. So yeah, even we usually used to have some offline meetings as well. So
Yeah.
I think uh, I don't know when the admin's gonna plan this. So yeah, so I feel like this kind of sessions really help us to come out from these fears. So thank you
Yeah.
so much for this.
Yeah, absolutely. When I started at my first job, like my coworkers would not be able to hear me. I was so soft spoken all the time. I don't like they would leave like a post-it note on my desk being like enunciate, like to remind me to like speak louder. That was just how I was. And it's over time. I think really my experience at Disney really opened me up and kind of forced me. When I started to realize, like, I wasn't getting my voice out there and being heard and noticed, it really like pushed me that I had to kind of do this and speak up. And yeah, that when you're kind of thrown in situations, so it's really awesome that this community exists to do that. And I'd encourage you all to do in-person meetups as well. I think those are even more, it's easier behind a screen, but when you're really in person, it really pushes you to go up and say hello and talk to somebody you've never met before. It takes courage, right? And so the more you practice it, the more you'll do it.
Awesome. Mervin is here, so he actually typed out his question. So before that, I just want to say, like, public speaking for me, I have this very fear that I'll just black out in the middle of speaking, which it took a while to get over, but I still do have that. So I'm not going to say I'm over that. So Mervin is commented. I'll just read it out. Thanks for the wonderful session. How do you deal with burnouts and dry, uninspiring faces?
I love that question. I've certainly felt burnout quite a few times, just overworking myself. Really, it's just taking a break. I am a workaholic. I will acknowledge that 100%. I can't stop working, and I really have to push myself to take breaks. I make sure I do something that's not related to design or motion design or animation in any way. For me, it's my yoga practice. So I'll wake up and go to yoga or just do it at home on my own. It's my time to just be with myself and think of nothing else. So really giving yourself moments to just regain that energy. That's the way to work. Hopefully you don't reach burnout. You kind of recognize that before you kind of reach that point. So like really just listening to your body and mind and being aware of it and making amends, because you definitely don't want to reach that point. It's not a great place to be. I've been there multiple times. I'm ashamed to say that, but yeah. And uninspiring phases, again, it's kind of the same thing, like trying to do something different. I think like as artists, we just kind of get into the zone and feel like we just need to be creating all the time, but taking inspiration from things outside of work, taking a walk, just looking at, like for me, I love hiking and being out in nature. So that really just refreshes me and gives me more encouragement to keep going. Also just like meeting other people and like learning about things that are inspiring them, and gaining inspiration from them helps me a lot as well. It gives me drive and motivation. I'd say the highlight this year was just going to Making Midwest. Like I hadn't been to a conference in a while. And that was like super inspiring. I came out of it feeling extremely motivated. So I'd encourage, like, if you have opportunities and you have this community here, to put something together and just kind of motivate each other. I think that could be incredible. Yeah.
Inspiration is kind of like it just appears totally out of nowhere sometimes.
Yeah. And if you're feeling uninspired, like, and that means like you need to give yourself a break. It's kind of like a wake up call, that there's something that you need to change and pivot in some way. Yeah.
And I think with every Instagram, Pinterest, lately Kara, everything, like everybody's churning out a lot of content. So for some reason, everything's just going out into the background as a background noise rather than inspire. So I think I'm not sure if this is true. I've heard that Sarah Beth Morgan, she would cycle to a very cycle outdoors and sit in a cafe or maybe in a park, or I'm not sure if this is true, and that's how she brainstorms or illustrates. I'm not sure if that is true. Again, I'm saying that is just something
Okay.
yeah. So
Mhm.
and if that's true, I mean, hey, her work shows, it's
Yeah.
kind of very,
Mhm.
it's very, it's eye popping. I think that's the
Mhm.
word I use.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I can't remember who told me this at this moment, but I think it was during my college times that if you're, or maybe I heard it somewhere from another animator at Disney, but it was like, I mean, especially for character animation in general, if you were, you're trying to capture life, but if you're not going to live life, you're not going to be able to capture it. And so you need to go out there and live it and then bring that into your work. And so that really hit me hard. I was like, because I was just like sitting at, like, in my apartment in college, and I was just like drawing all the time, and I was just not living life, and it kind of pushed me to be like, all right, I can't be this recluse. I need to go out and do something. So yeah.
That is ideal. I mean, that is spot on, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Mhm.
Um, yeah, that was an awesome session. So we are well past the hour. I mean, we just crossed
I
the
know.
hour.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna like put it like, if anybody else has any questions, or you wanna talk, come forward and ask anything or speak up, like this is your time. This is like before we wind up. Um. Oh, okay. Yeah, come forward, Vasi.
Hi. Just a last quick note. Where can we see your personal work? Some of the animations that you shared in your presentation. Are they on your website, or do you have them on Vimeo somewhere so we can go check everything out?
I mean, I shared a little bit of some of our initial work. I haven't, for the past years, I've just been focusing everything on the little labs. So a lot of my personal work from before has just been like work I did at Disney. I don't have it up online anymore, but if you're interested, I can put it together. I've just really been focusing on everything the little labs. I have some personal work on my art profile on Instagram, but I kind of put it on private because it's just stuff from like eons ago, but I can share it.
Yeah, and I also, like, with that, I meant to say like those internal projects for the little lab, because those are
those are
projects. Okay.
Yeah, those are on Dribble. A lot of the earlier ones are up on Dribble that I kind of shared here. Most of them are on Instagram, and we actually have an experiments page on our website. That's where we kind of post more the internal passion projects, so you can check it out there as well. Yeah. And we have a couple more we're working on this year, so I'm excited to share it when it's done. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for the presentation today.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to be here. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And for everyone who hasn't, joined our toggle sessions before, we have this recorded. So if you want to rewatch this, or if you have a friend who hasn't watched it and they would like to watch it, we'll be uploading it to YouTube within a week. Mostly because us admins are a bit lazy. But
a week is pretty good, and like that's a good turnaround.
Hopefully. And if you want to, and if you would like to, attend future toggle sessions, you can follow us on Instagram, or if you would like to join our Slack collective, F9 Collective Slack community, you can visit our website. We have a lot of amazing artists and studio owners over there. Aradhana is there, Kyle Hamrick is there, and a lot of artists from India and around the Asian subcontinent. So you will get to connect with them, collaborate, hire them for work or anything. So yeah, you're all welcome to join us. We'll include the link in the YouTube channel in our description, so you can join us through that, or you can visit our website and apply for that. And we just, like, all you have to do all you have to be is just, be an artist, or that's all, because we this our community, our collective is strictly an artist first collective. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So I thank you again, Aradhana, for this amazing session. Like, that there was a lot of, you gave us an insight to your workflow, to your design process, to your design thinking, and you also dropped a lot of wisdom here and there. So, So
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
yeah, it was awesome. And, thank you very much for being a guest here. And I think we'll wrap up today's session. And thank you everyone for, making this session an awesome success. And yeah, take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you, Aradhana.
Bye, guys. Bye,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thanks so much. Bye. Bye.
Bye.